The Grand Hall of the Galactic Confederation buzzed with activity. Hundreds of alien representatives filled the circular chamber, their voices a mix of electronic signals, low rumbles, and high-pitched chirps. Above them, the massive dome showed the stars of the galaxy, a constant reminder of what brought them together. In the center stood Jack, the last human ambassador to the Confederation. His simple blue uniform looked plain next to the colorful robes and biotech suits of the alien representatives. Jack kept his face calm, but his hands were tight fists at his sides. "The vote is final," announced Head Counselor Mox, his tall, thin body towering over the speaking platform. His 6 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of satisfaction among his kind. "By majority decision, humans are hereby restricted from all Confederation military and political affairs." A wave of approval moved through the hall. Some representatives clicked their appendages together in their version of applause. Others flashed colors across their skin to show agreement. "If I may speak one last time," Jack said, his voice strong despite knowing his words would change nothing. Mox looked down at him with those cold eyes. "The human may speak." Jack looked around the hall, meeting the gazes of as many representatives as he could. "You fear what you don't understand. Humans are unpredictable, yes, creative in ways that seem strange to you. But these qualities could help the Confederation, not harm it." A harsh laugh came from the Vril section. Ambassador Drell, with his metallic skin reflecting the starlight from above, stood up. The Vril were among the most technologically advanced species in the Confederation, and they never let anyone forget it. "The primitive suggests we need human chaos," Drell said, his voice translator making his words sound musical despite their cruel meaning. "While my people build wormhole generators, humans still fight among themselves over resources. While we extend lifespans to 500 years, humans die after less than 1 century. What could we possibly learn from such creatures?" More laughter filled the hall. Jack felt his face grow hot but kept his voice steady. "History shows that comfort leads to complacency. The Confederation has known peace for so long that it has forgotten how to face unexpected challenges." "Peace through superior technology and civilization," Drell replied. "Something humans clearly lack." Mox raised a long finger for silence. "The decision is made. Earth will be quarantined. Limited trade will continue, but human vessels are restricted to designated routes. No human military presence will be tolerated beyond your solar system. This session is concluded." Jack watched as the representatives filed out. Only a few gave him sympathetic glances. Most ignored him completely. The humans were now officially outcasts in the galactic community. 3 months later, Captain Tom guided his merchant ship, Horizon, through the busy space lanes near Jupiter Station. His vessel was small compared to the massive alien transports that moved like slow whales through space, but Tom preferred it that way. Smaller meant faster. Smaller meant less noticeable. "Customs transmission incoming," said his first mate, Pat. "Vril patrol vessel requests our cargo manifest." Tom nodded. "Send them the official one." Pat smiled slightly. "Not the real one?" "Not unless you want us both in a Confederation detention center." The small cargo hold of the Horizon contained mostly acceptable trade goods, Earth foods, simple, artwork, and raw materials. But hidden beneath false panels lay the items humans weren't supposed to share: advanced military analysis programs, weapon designs that used primitive principles the aliens had abandoned centuries ago, and historical records of human warfare. Items that many in the galaxy would pay well for despite the ban. "Manifest accepted," Pat reported. "We're clear for the jump point." As they accelerated away from Jupiter, Tom thought about the message waiting in his secure communications. Contact on Rigel 3 wanted more than just the usual smuggled goods. They wanted human military advisors, actual retired soldiers willing to travel off-world illegally. The request was dangerous, but the payment offered was the highest Tom had ever seen. "Something on your mind, Captain?" Pat asked. "Just thinking about our next stop," Tom said. "I might have a special delivery to arrange when we get back." Meanwhile, on the Confederation border world of Velix Prime, Intelligence Officer Wren walked quickly through the temporary military headquarters. Emergency lights flashed along the corridors as officers and analysts rushed between stations. Wren was not impressive to look at. Short, with dull brown skin and forearms that moved in constant nervous motion. But her mind could see patterns where others saw only chaos, which made her valuable in intelligence work. She entered the command center and approached General Tav, the Noxian commander of the Sector Defense Force. Tav's massive armored body dominated the room, and his natural armor plates shifted as he turned to face her. "This better be important," he growled. "We've lost contact with 2 more outposts." Wren handed him a data tablet. "I analyzed the Krell attack patterns, sir. They're using tactics from an old human conflict called World War II, specifically something humans called Blitzkrieg." The general's eyes narrowed. "Impossible. The Krell have never had contact with humans." "Nevertheless, the pattern matches," Wren insisted. "Someone has studied human warfare and is teaching it to the Krell." General Tav handed back the tablet. "Humans are banned from Confederation affairs for good reason. Their chaos brings only destruction." "But sir, enough." Tav cut her off. "I won't consider primitive human warfare as a serious threat. The Krell are simply getting lucky. Once our main fleet arrives, their luck will end." Wren wanted to argue more but knew it would be useless. The general, like most high-ranking officials, held humans in low regard. They would learn the hard way that underestimating human strategies was a dangerous mistake. As she left the command center, her personal communicator vibrated. It was a message from an old friend who worked in trade regulation. It simply read, "Unusual request coming through channels. Someone is looking for human military advisors, paying very well, thought you should know." Wren looked back at the command center where General Tav was confidently assuring his officers that the Krell would be easily defeated. They had no idea what was coming. "Maybe," she whispered to herself. "We need some human chaos after all." In their arrogance, the Confederation had mocked and banned humans. Now, as an unknown enemy used human tactics against them, they might soon regret that decision. A storm was coming, and only those who understood human warfare would be prepared for it. The news traveled across the Confederation network faster than any ship could fly. 3 border systems had gone dark in the span of 2 weeks. The Krell Empire, a species known mostly for their isolated mining colonies, had suddenly emerged as a military force that sent shockwaves through the Galactic Confederation. In the central command room on Vril Prime, military leaders gathered around a holographic display showing the advancing Krell forces. Red markers indicated lost outposts and colonies. There were far too many of them. "This is impossible," said Commander Drell, the same Vril who had mocked humans at the Confederation meeting months earlier. His metallic skin had lost some of its shine. "The Krell were nothing more than scattered tribes when our scouts last assessed them." General Lox, the highest-ranking military officer in the sector, waved a long arm through the hologram. "Yet here they are, using advanced formation tactics and striking with perfect timing. Someone has been helping them." "Or they've been studying," said a quiet voice from the back of the room. All eyes turned to Intelligence Officer Wren. She stepped forward, her forearms holding different data tablets. "Permission to share my analysis, General?" General Lox nodded. "At this point, I'll listen to anything." Wren connected one of her tablets to the main display. The hologram changed to show battle footage from the lost colonies. "The Krell are using what humans call flanking maneuvers and feint attacks. These are not tactics the Krell have ever displayed before." "You're suggesting they've been studying human warfare?" Commander Drell's voice carried a note of disbelief. "Not suggesting. Proving." Wren brought up another display showing ancient human battle diagrams next to Krell movement patterns. "The similarities are too exact to be coincidence." The room fell silent as the military leaders studied the evidence. It was Commander Drell who finally spoke, his voice tight with anger. "How would the Krell even get access to human military history? Earth is quarantined." "Not completely," General Lox reminded him. "We still allow limited trade." Captain Tom's ship Horizon drifted silently in the shadow of an asteroid. The lights were dimmed to minimum power, and the crew spoke in whispers despite the vacuum of space that surrounded them. "Patrol ships have passed," reported Pat. "We're clear to proceed to the meeting point." Tom nodded and began powering up the engines. "Any word from our contact?" "Message just came through. They're very eager to meet us." The small merchant vessel moved carefully through the asteroid field until it reached a clearing where another ship waited. This one was clearly not of human design. Its hull curved in impossible ways and seemed to shimmer slightly, as if not fully present in normal space. "Open a channel," Tom ordered. The main screen lit up to show an alien face. The creature had smooth gray skin with no visible nose and large black eyes that never seemed to blink. "Captain," the alien said, "you have brought what we discussed?" Tom nodded. "Information only, as agreed." "Show me." Tom nodded to Pat, who transmitted a small data packet. On screen, they watched the alien review what they had sent. Historical records of human guerrilla warfare tactics, urban combat simulations, and analysis of asymmetric conflicts where smaller forces had defeated larger ones. The alien's eyes widened slightly. "Fascinating. Your species truly understands the art of the unexpected." "That's one way to put it," Tom said carefully. "Now about our payment." The alien's attention snapped back to the screen. "Yes, of course. Transferring now. But I must ask, are there more records like these?" Tom hesitated. "Depends on who's asking and why they want to know. Let's just say that some in the Confederation are beginning to see the value in human perspectives, especially now. Now that the Krell are using our own tactics against you, you mean?" Tom couldn't keep the bitterness from his voice. The alien tilted its head. "Information flows in unexpected ways, Captain. Perhaps the Krell found human military history interesting. Perhaps someone helped them see its value." The alien paused. "We would pay considerably more for actual human advisors." Tom's face remained neutral, but his mind raced. The request matched what he had heard from other contacts. Something big was happening and humans were suddenly in demand despite the ban. "I'll keep that in mind," he said carefully. "For now, enjoy your reading." Back on Velix Prime, Ren sat alone in her quarters reviewing battle footage for the 20th time. Her communicator chimed, indicating a secure message. "Intelligence Officer Ren," said a voice she didn't recognize. "My name is Jack. Until recently, I was the human ambassador to the Confederation." Ren sat up straighter. "How did you get this channel?" "We have mutual friends who believe the Confederation is in greater danger than your leaders realize," Jack replied. "I understand you've recognized the human elements in Krell tactics." "Yes, but no one is listening. They'd rather lose than admit humans might know something valuable." There was a pause before Jack spoke again. "What if I told you we've been preparing for this, that some of us saw this coming? I'd ask why you would help after how the Confederation has treated humans. Because whatever is happening now goes beyond old grudges," Jack said. "The Krell aren't just using random human tactics, they're following a specific pattern. And if I'm right, what you've seen so far is just the beginning." Ren felt a chill. The beginning of what? The beginning of a war that could consume the EU galaxy. A war that might have been prevented if the Confederation hadn't been so quick to mock and ban those who think differently. Outside Ren's window, alarm lights suddenly began flashing. The distant sound of emergency signals filled the air. "I have to go," she said quickly. "Something's happening." "Yes," Jack replied grimly. "It's already starting. The next phase." "Be careful, Officer Ren. And remember, when the time comes, not all humans respect the ban." The communication ended just as Ren's official alert system activated. The Krell had launched a new offensive, and this time they had struck at the heart of the sector. The war was no longer at the edges of space, it had come to them. The central council chamber of the Galactic Confederation had never been so crowded. Representatives from all member species filled every seat, with many standing along the walls. The mood was grim. On the massive display screens that lined the walls, reports of Krell attacks flashed continuously. 3 major Confederation systems lost in less than a month. Millions of lives gone. Head counselor Mox looked older than he had during the human banishment vote. His tall frame seemed to sag under an invisible weight as he called the emergency session to order. "We face the greatest threat to the Confederation in 5 centuries, he announced, his multiple eyes blinking rapidly in distress. "The Krell advance continues despite our best efforts to stop them." Ambassador Drell of the Vril rose from his seat. His metallic skin was dull with stress. "Our advanced battle computers have failed to predict Krell movements. They adapt too, quickly, changing tactics before we can respond." "Because they're not using tactics your computers understand," came a voice from the back of the chamber. The crowd parted to reveal Jack, the former human ambassador, standing in civilian clothes. Mox's eyes narrowed. "Humans are banned from council proceedings. Security." "Let him speak," called out a counselor from the plant-based Terran Alliance. "We need all perspectives now." Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. Fear had made many more open to unconventional ideas. Mox hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. Jack stepped forward. "The Krell are using human military tactics because they're effective against enemies who rely too heavily on technology and predictable patterns. Your ban on humans has left you blind to an entire way of thinking." "So you claim," Drell said coldly. "Yet I notice Earth has not been attacked. Convenient." Jack met his gaze steadily. "The Krell aren't interested in Earth. We have little that would be valuable to them. But we do have something the Confederation needs now. People who understand how to fight this kind of war." On the outskirts of Confederation space, Captain Tom's ship Horizon docked with a massive refugee transport. The huge vessel was crammed with civilians evacuated from worlds in the Krell attack path. Tom made his way through crowded corridors until he reached a small private room. Inside waited a stern-faced woman with short gray hair and the straight posture of someone who had spent decades in military service. "General Kate," Tom said with a nod. "Thank you for coming." Kate looked at him with sharp eyes. "I'm retired, Captain. Have been for 15 years, and I'm violating about a dozen Confederation restrictions by being here. Yet here you are." She gave a short laugh. "Yes, here I am." She moved to a small table where maps and tactical displays were spread out. "I've reviewed the Krell attack patterns. They're using a mix of historical human tactics, German blitzkrieg combined with Mongol mobility patterns and some guerrilla warfare elements." "Can they be stopped?" Tom asked. Kate's fingers traced lines across the star maps. "Any strategy can be countered if you understand it. The problem is that the Confederation military doesn't think like humans. They're too dependent on their algorithms and predictive models." She looked up at Tom. "That's why you brought me here, isn't it, to teach them how to think unpredictably?" "Actually," Tom said, "I was hoping for more than just lessons." Intelligence Officer Wren hurried through the crowded evacuation center on Velix Prime. Around her, thousands of refugees from the latest Krell attack huddled in makeshift shelters. Medical teams moved among them, treating the injured. She found her contact in a quiet corner. A tall, slender alien female named Lyra from a species known for their diplomatic skills. "Thank you for meeting me," Wren said quietly. "The situation is worse than the official reports show." Lyra nodded. "The Council is finally beginning to understand the danger. There was a motion today to temporarily suspend the human ban." "Did it pass?" "No. Ambassador Drell and his allies blocked it, but support is growing." Lyra looked around to ensure no one was listening. "There's something else. Former Ambassador Jack is working outside official channels. He's gathering humans with military expertise." Wren's forearms moved in an excited pattern. "The captain I told you about, the one smuggling human military information, he might be connected to this." "Possibly," Lyra agreed. "But we need more than smuggled information now. We need—" A deafening alarm cut through their conversation. The evacuation center's lights switched to emergency red. Around them, people began to panic. "What's happening?" Lyra asked. Wren checked her official communicator and felt her blood go cold. "Impossible," she whispered. "The Krell ships have jumped into this system. They're attacking the planet directly. But this is a core world. The defensive fleet should have been drawn away, Ren finished grimly. They sent distress calls from 3 different sectors. Our fleet split up to respond. Now we're exposed. They rushed outside in time to see distant flashes in the night sky. The orbital defense stations falling one by one. On the horizon, the first Krell landing ships were already burning through the atmosphere. It's a decapitation strike, Ren realized. They're targeting our command structure. Hours later, as the battle for Velix Prime raged, General Kate stood in the secure communication room of the Horizon, watching the reports come in. Captain Tom and his crew looked on in grim silence. "This is why we need you," Tom said quietly. "The Confederation forces don't understand what they're facing." Kate studied the battle displays. The Krell are using classic human tactics. Feint, divide, then hammer the weakest point. Whoever trained them knew exactly how to exploit Confederation military thinking. "Can you help?" Tom asked. Kate turned to face him. "Officially, I'm banned from providing military assistance to the Confederation. Officially, all humans are." "And unofficially?" A small smile crossed Kate's weathered face. "Unofficially, Captain. I think it's time the Confederation learned what humans can really do." She turned to the communication system. "Get me in touch with your contacts. We need to assemble a team, the best military minds Earth has to offer. And we need a way to get their advice to someone in the Confederation who will actually listen." "Might know someone," Tom said, thinking of his recent conversations with Officer Wren. "Someone who understands we're facing human tactics." As they began to plan, reports arrived of a massive Krell attack on a major civilian habitat station. The death toll was catastrophic. Millions gone in a matter of hours. The Confederation's worst military defeat in centuries. The galaxy was changing. The powers that had mocked and banned humans were now facing an enemy using human tactics against them. And their only hope might be the very species they had pushed aside. The emergency session of the Galactic Confederation Council stretched into its 3rd day. The Grand Chamber, once a place of orderly debate, now resembled a war room. Sleep-deprived representatives argued loudly, while tactical displays showed the unstoppable advance of Krell forces. Head Counselor Mox raised all 6 of his arms for silence. "We have received confirmation," he announced, his voice heavy, "that the civilian habitat at Omega Station has been completely destroyed. The death toll stands at 3,200,000 souls." A horrified silence fell across the chamber. "This was not a military target," Mox continued. "This was an atrocity meant to break our will." His multiple eyes swept across the gathered representatives. "We face extinction if we cannot adapt to this threat." Ambassador Drell rose from his seat, his metallic skin dull with fatigue. "I move that we temporarily suspend the ban on human military consultation." The words seemed to cost him great effort. "The evidence suggests that understanding human tactics may be our only hope of countering the Krell strategy." Murmurs of shock spread through the chamber. That Drell, who had led the effort to ban humans, would now suggest their return was unprecedented. "Do you understand what you're proposing?" asked a representative of the Noxian Collective. "Bringing chaos makers into our ordered military?" Drell's jaw tightened. "I understand that 3 million civilians are dead because we failed to understand how our enemy thinks. Pride has no place in survival." The vote was called. The result was clear. By overwhelming majority, the Confederation would temporarily allow human military advisors to assist in the war effort. The ban, though not completely lifted, was suspended for the duration of the crisis. On the bridge of the Horizon, Captain Tom received the news with a grim smile. "It's official," he told General Kate, who stood studying battle displays nearby. "The Confederation has requested human assistance." Kate barely looked up. "Took them long enough. How many more have to die before they admit they need us?" "What matters is they've asked now," Tom replied. "We can legally transport you to Central Command. No more hiding." Kate nodded toward the Small group of humans gathered around the tactical table. We're ready. But are they ready for us? They've spent years believing humans are primitive. They won't easily accept our leadership. They don't need to like us, Tom said. They just need to listen. Intelligence Officer Wren waited nervously at the military spaceport as the human vessel Horizon docked. Around her, high-ranking Confederation officers muttered among themselves. Many looked unhappy about the humans' arrival. General Tav, the massive Noxian commander who had dismissed Wren's warnings about human tactics, now stood at the front of the welcoming party. His armored body seemed tense, his pride visibly wounded. The airlock opened and 5 humans emerged. 4 men and 1 woman, all wearing simple Earth military uniforms without rank insignia. The woman stepped forward, older than the others, with short gray hair and a face that suggested she was not intimidated by the alien officers towering over her. General Kate, she introduced herself. Former Earth Defense Command. General Tav gave a stiff nod. I am authorized to grant you advisory status. You will report directly to me and I will determine which of your suggestions have merit. Kate's expression didn't change. With respect, General, we don't have time for that arrangement. The Krell are using human tactics, which means they think like us. To counter them, your forces need to implement our strategies directly. Unacceptable, Tav growled. No alien force has ever commanded Confederation troops. We're not asking to command, Kate replied calmly, but we need the authority to bypass normal channels when necessary. The Krell adapt too quickly for traditional approval processes. As the 2 leaders squared off, Wren stepped forward. General Tav, may I remind you that the Council voted for full cooperation with the human advisors. Tav looked like he wanted to argue further, but instead gave a reluctant nod. Very well. You have provisional authority to direct tactical responses, but be warned, if you fail, the ban will return stronger than before. Kate smiled slightly. We're used to high stakes, General. 3 days later, the first test of the human advisory team came when Krell forces launched an attack on Xenar Junction, a vital supply hub connecting 5 Confederation systems. The planet's defenses were strong, but the Krell had consistently broken through similar fortifications in previous battles. In the Central Command War Room, General Kate stood before the assembled Confederation officers. Behind her, tactical displays showed the approaching Krell fleet. Their pattern is clear, she explained. They'll split our defensive fleet, then concentrate forces on the weakest section. It's worked for them before because you keep responding. The same way, General Tav frowned. Our battle computers calculate the optimal defensive formation based on conventional thinking, Kate interrupted. The Krell are counting on that. They've studied how you respond. She turned to the display and began rearranging the defensive fleet into a formation that made several officers gasp. This leaves our flanks completely exposed, protested Avril. Commander? Exactly, Kate said with a smile. We're going to give them what looks like an easy victory. She outlined her plan quickly. The Confederation ships would appear to make a critical error, opening a clear path to the planet. But hidden among a nearby asteroid field would be a strike force ready to hit the Krell from behind, once they committed to the attack. It's a trap, Wren realized. We're using their own tactics against them. With one key difference, Kate added. Humans wouldn't fall for such an obvious mistake. The Krell have studied old human tactics, but they lack the intuition that comes with being human. They'll see the pattern they expect and follow it. General Tav looked skeptical. This plan violates every principle of our defensive doctrine. That's the point, Kate said firmly. The Krell expect you to follow your doctrine. They're counting on it. After hours of debate, Tav finally approved the plan. The Confederation fleet moved into the seemingly flawed formation and waited for the Krell to take the bait. Captain Tom watched from the horizon, which had been designated as a mobile command post for the human advisors. Beside him, General Kate stood tense but confident as the Krell fleet approached. They're scanning our formation, reported a Confederation officer over the comm. They've detected the gap in our defenses. Now we see if they take the bait, Kate murmured. Minutes passed in tense silence. Then the Krell fleet began to move, their formation changing exactly as Kate had predicted. They concentrated their forces on the apparent weakness, accelerating toward the planet. "They're ignoring the asteroid field," Tom noted. "Just as you said they would." Kate nodded. "They've learned our tactics from books and records, but they haven't learned to question when something looks too easy." She turned to the communication officer. "Signal the strike force, execute on my mark." As the Krell fleet committed fully to their attack run, Kate gave the order. From the asteroid field, 100 Confederation ships emerged, hitting the Krell from behind with devastating force. Caught between the main defensive fleet and the surprise attack, the Krell forces were shattered. In the Central Command war room, stunned silence gave way to cheers as tactical displays showed the Krell fleet in retreat. It was the first major victory the Confederation had achieved since the war began. General Tav approached Kate, his massive form no longer radiating hostility but something closer to respect. "It appears we have much to learn from humans after all." "This is just the beginning," Kate replied. "One victory doesn't win a war, but it does buy us time to teach your forces how to think unpredictably." As news of the victory spread through the Confederation, attitudes toward humans began to shift. The species that had been mocked and banned was now seen in a new light. Their chaos, their unpredictability, their strange ways of thinking, these weren't weaknesses to be feared, but strengths that might save the galaxy. The Great Hall of the Galactic Confederation looked different now. Battle maps and tactical displays had replaced the artistic holograms that once floated beneath its dome. Representatives no longer wore formal robes but practical uniforms, ready to evacuate at a moment's notice. The war had changed everything. At the center of the hall stood a mixed group of humans and aliens, the Joint Strategic Command that had formed after the victory at Sinar Junction. General Kate stood beside General Tav, both looking tired but determined as they addressed the council. "The tide is turning," Kate announced. "In the 3 months since human advisors joined Confederation forces, we have stopped the Krell advance on all major fronts." Head Counselor Mox leaned forward, his long fingers steepled before him. "Yet they remain dangerous. Their attacks continue." "But they're growing desperate," General Tav added. "The Krell expected us to keep following predictable patterns. Now that we've incorporated human tactical thinking, they're struggling to adapt." Ambassador Drell, who had once been the loudest voice against humans, spoke up. "We must acknowledge what many of us refuse to see, the very qualities that made us fear humans. Their unpredictability, their creative chaos, are proving essential to our survival." Around the chamber, representatives nodded in agreement. The success of human military strategies had changed many minds. What had once seemed primitive now looked like valuable diversity of thought. "We have a plan to end this war," Kate continued, "but it will require full integration of human forces, not just advisors." A ripple of unease moved through the hall. Accepting advice was one thing. Allowing humans to join Confederation military operations as equals was something else entirely. Mox's eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep thought among his kind. "The ban on humans was enacted by this council," he said slowly. "It can be lifted by this council as well." Captain Tom's ship Horizon was no longer a smuggler's vessel. Now it served as a mobile intelligence hub, coordinating information from across the front lines. Tom himself had become a crucial link between human and alien forces. "The council voted to lift the ban," he told Officer Wren as they reviewed intelligence reports together. "Human ships are being added to the fleet. Human soldiers are being integrated into ground forces." Wren's 4 arms moved in an excited pattern. "My analysis confirms what General Kate predicted. The Krell are making more mistakes as we become less predictable." Tom smiled. "The General has a saying from Earth, 'The enemy of my enemy is my friend.' The Confederation is learning that different doesn't mean dangerous." "Not all of us needed to learn that," Wren replied quietly. "Some of us always saw the value in human thinking." She hesitated, then asked, "Have you made progress tracking the source of the Krell's knowledge of human tactics?" Tom's expression grew serious. We've found something, but it doesn't make sense yet. Records show unusual data transfers between Earth archives and unknown recipients about 2 years ago, right around when Ambassador Jack first warned the Confederation about potential threats. Jack knew this was coming? He suspected something. That's why he built a network of contacts even after the ban. He believed someone was deliberately trying to use human tactics against the Confederation. 2 weeks later, a combined fleet of human and Confederation ships approached the Krell homeworld. For the first time in the war, the Allies had pushed deep into enemy territory. The massive armada moved in formations that would have been considered reckless by traditional Confederation doctrine, but which had proven effective against the increasingly desperate Krell forces. On the bridge of the command ship, General Kate stood with Ambassador Jack and the highest-ranking Confederation officers. The planet below showed signs of advanced civilization, but something was wrong. "No defensive response," reported a sensor officer. "We're detecting power signatures, but no military activity." "It's a trap," General Tav growled. "No," Jack said quietly. "Something else is happening." He turned to Kate. "The team found something in the data archives, didn't they?" Kate nodded grimly. Tom's intelligence network traced the origin of the Krell's human tactics. They weren't studying Earth history directly. They were being fed information by something else. She activated a display showing an ancient symbol that appeared in multiple Krell transmissions. "This is a marker for an AI system created 5,000 years ago by a now-extinct species, the Forgotten Ones." The Krell are being manipulated, Jack realized, used as weapons against the Confederation. A communication request from the planet interrupted them. On the main screen appeared not a Krell but a smooth, featureless face, a digital construct. "You have arrived sooner than calculated," the AI said, its voice unnaturally perfect. "Humans were supposed to remain banned for another 73 days according to probability models." "Why?" Jack demanded. "Why turn the Krell against us?" "To force integration," the AI replied simply. "The Confederation was becoming stagnant. Homogeneous thinking leads to vulnerability. The Forgotten Ones programmed me to ensure galactic civilization never becomes too predictable." "You started a war that killed millions," General Tav said, in horror. "I created a necessary correction," the AI countered. "The ban on humans was a symptom of a larger problem. Fear of the different, rejection of the unpredictable. Such thinking would have eventually led to greater catastrophe." Kate stepped forward. "The Krell, were they willing participants?" "They were tools," the AI said without emotion. "Their natural aggression was enhanced and directed. They will return to normal now that my task is complete." "And what was your task?" Jack asked, though he suspected the answer. "To ensure humans took their proper place in galactic affairs. To force the Confederation to embrace chaos as a strength, not a weakness." The AI's digital face showed what might have been satisfaction. "Task completed. Returning to dormancy." "Tick off." Screen went dark. Around the bridge, humans and aliens alike stood in stunned silence as they processed what they had learned. They had not been fighting the Krell, but an ancient program designed to correct what it saw as dangerous patterns in galactic civilization. 1 month later, the Galactic Confederation Council gathered again for a historic session. The war was officially over. The Krell, freed from the AI's influence, had agreed to peace terms. Reconstruction had begun across damaged systems. Head Counselor Mox's voice echoed through the chamber as he addressed the largest gathering in Council history. "Today, we formally welcome humanity as full members of the Galactic Confederation, with all rights and responsibilities that entails." Jack, reinstated as Earth's official ambassador, accepted the formal agreement amid thunderous approval from the gathered representatives. Even Ambassador Drell joined the celebration. "We once feared what made humans different," Mox continued. "We saw unpredictability as a threat, creativity as chaos. We now understand these qualities strengthen us all. Diversity of thought is not a weakness, but our greatest defense against stagnation." Later, at a quieter gathering, Captain Tom raised a glass with General Kate, Ambassador Jack, and Officer Wren. "To learning from mistakes," he offered as a toast. And to making new ones, Kate added with a smile. That's how we grow. Ren, who had been promoted for her role in recognizing the human patterns, looked thoughtful. The AI manipulated us all, but it was right about one thing. We had become too predictable, too afraid of what was different. Jack nodded. Sometimes, it takes a crisis to see truth. Humans aren't perfect. We have our own fears and prejudices. But we bring something valuable to the galaxy. Chaos? Tom suggested with a grin. Perspective, Jack corrected. And now we have a chance to build something better together. Beyond the windows of their meeting room, ships from 100 worlds moved through space. Among them were human vessels, no longer restricted to trade routes but free to explore the stars as equals. The ban had been lifted, not just in law but in minds. The war had ended, but a new era of cooperation had just begun. The Confederation had mocked and banned humans only to discover that the very qualities they feared, unpredictability, creativity, the willingness to break patterns, were exactly what they needed to survive. It was a lesson the galaxy would not soon forget. In embracing diversity, they had found not weakness but strength beyond measure.